Namaste, Honorable Governor of Kerala, Honorable Ambassador, my dear friends Srinivas Bharat and his co-conspirator Sharat Menon, who made this whole translation project possible, and of course the translator, and all of you dear friends and members of the public who are here to dignify this new book launch. I'm very grateful to you. I want to uh, discuss the backstory because the book itself has been introduced briefly and you can read it. But what you may not know and what may not be obvious is why it was written, how it was written, what went into it a quarter century before it came out. So it started actually around 1990. I living in the US, trained as a physicist. My training is to build frameworks, what in physics we call theories. And to build a theory, you fit all the empirical data into a theory. So this ball falls, it's not just something random, and that ball is thrown this way is not something separate. It's just one theory with many examples and many manifestations. So I have a habit of looking at experiences and making a framework, making a theory out of it. So I was building this theory based on my experiences about how India is treated in the newspapers, in the think tanks, by the church statements, by the government, by schools where my children were going. I was experiencing all kind of issues by universities, and I found that nobody's doing anything about it. Many of our people are sold out. They are part of the problem. Many of our people are part of the problem. And I started putting these pieces together into my own theory and my own framework, which culminated in this book decades later. So there's a top-down and a bottom-up process. The bottom-up is the field work, which I did in Tamil Nadu, and the top-down is the evidence from history, the stuff you can do sitting in libraries for days, weeks, and months, which I did. And so the top-down and the bottom-up have to come together. So I realized in my top-down framework the colonial history and their role in this, especially the development of this Aryan-Dravidian divide that was done, why it was done, who did it, on what basis they did it, how they sold it gradually. Then the caste system, how the Varna Jati got transformed into a hierarchical caste, starting with the British wanted to hire Indians to do the administration and run the country for them. So this Babuization of the Brahmins was a very important step in the caste, developing the hierarchy, because they needed people who could learn, study English, become very intelligent followers. They'd follow a procedure like you follow a ritual. You can follow the British ritual of how administration is to be done. And they found that Brahmins could be trained. And even though that's not a Brahmin function, they found that there's enough of them who would be willing to leave the Brahmin function and become British administrators. And rather than the Dharma Shastras follow the British laws, and rather than Sanskrit follow the English, and so on. So this Babuization became a caste. And similarly, taking Indians who were traditionally fighting for their country, for their Maharaja, their king, could be brought into the British army and made into sepoys. So this business of bringing different communities, jatis, into the British service, and then the British had a hierarchy of how these are to be organized because their own society was a hierarchy. So this hierarchical organization of Indians then became sort of the template into which all the jatis could be forced. In fact, many of you might not know this, but when Lord Risley, who is the architect of this whole thing, when he did the census of India every 10 years, he used to complain that the many jatis refused to comply with where they belong. In other words, the jatis are resisting. Many jatis were saying, I don't think I belong there. I think that you have put me in the wrong place in the hierarchy. So, in other words, the British own evidence shows that this was forced upon the jatis to accept a hierarchical positioning. Anyway, a lot of this is written in the book, how this is done. Then you fast forward to the modern times, I realized that the Americans have taken what was called Indology by the British, the Germans, French, etc., and they called it South Asian Studies, starting in places like Harvard and Chicago and Columbia, and I used to go there. And I used to know those people. I used to even give them funding and grants and all that. And I realized how the breakup of India into different components is going on very rapidly, very aggressively as part of the South Asian studies. And this bothered me. And I would fight and debate the very people I was funding. I was actually giving them funding to improve the situation, to change, but realized that funding these Western scholars, I compared it with feeding the crocodiles. You can feed the crocodile, but he'll still eat your arm. He's not going to become a puppy dog and wag his tail and become a friend. You cannot, in other words, you cannot buy him with gifts and money and so on. So that shows the loyalty they have to their own tradition, that they would stick to their template, their ideology, no matter how generous you are, which is a mistake that our billionaires today are doing, going and funding chairs and feeding the wrong people, empowering them to do more of this against us. So I came across all of this. I came across people, Indian intellectuals, sold out into the academy, and I started calling them intellectual sepoys. I said, these are the sepoys today. They are working on the other side. And so now you see sepoys all over in media and some politics also, all these people. So then this is the top-down going on. But then in the 1990s, I started doing a lot of work in Auroville and Pondicherry. And that's where, because as a follower of Sri Aurobindo, I was funding a lot of things and then got into the village development program, women's empowerment program, all these kind of NGOs we started funding. And so I would go and really get to engage these people on a ground level, grassroots level, and started understanding how these top-down forces, be they from the church, be they from the Aryan-Dravidian divide, or be they some other Marxist, Maoist, whatever, how they were operating on the ground. I started gathering a lot of information, and that was very important for me. And then came the tsunami in 2005, was another big landmark, when Swami Dayanand Saraswati told me you should go and do something about it. In Nagapattinam village, the district actually was destroyed. So I went and spent a few months with a camera crew to investigate what was going on, the fisher villages, how the foreign forces were coming and putting up tents in the name of aid and helping people, humanitarian aid. They were actually converting them, rabble-rousing them, creating mischief among them. I documented all that. And there's a documentary I did which is available online on the whole tsunami experience. So then I started field work in a systematic way. And for a couple of years, I hired a translator. I needed a Tamil translator who will set up the meetings and go with me and interpret what's going on and translate the leaflets and so on. So he did this kind of work for me. And later, towards the end, when I was ready to publish the book, I told him I'm going to put his name and make him a co-author, because it would be good to bring in a local person, bring him up into this. So that's the kind of background on how this book was brought about. And Swami Dayanand Saraswati launched it. The Vivekananda International Foundation in Delhi, Ajit Doval, who was the chairman of that, director of that, who is now the National Security Advisor, he launched it. So a lot of people launched the book. And it was launched in the US also. And then I started getting attacks, personal attacks, which just went on, and I was alone in defending. I learned another thing, that when you are doing well, they'll all come with you and say, oh yeah, you're great, we back you. But when they hit you and you're in trouble, they'll abandon you. And they'll give you all kind of very lofty shlokas. They'll say, but you are the Atma that is immortal, the fire cannot burn you, and the blade cannot cut you, like that, to kind of basically cop out and run away. So I experienced that also. I experienced that to be an intellectual Kshatriya, ultimately you have to do this not because they will support you or somebody will be impressed, but this is your own swadharma. This is why you have to do it. And so this only made me stronger. The fact that I have to fight on my own for my own defense, including dragging me through the mud and attacking me, threats and my family, all that kind of being brought in. I faced that for so many years. No guru would come, no mandir would let me come and speak in the United States because they would say that this is controversial. So I would say that what Buddha said was also controversial. What Adi Shankara said when he defeated his older people, opponents in debate, he was controversial. What Mohandas Gandhi did was controversial. What Jesus Christ did was controversial. In science, what Einstein did was very controversial because all of physics was toppled. So why are you afraid of controversy without challenging the framework, without challenging the narrative, which is the people's comfort zone? You cannot make progress. If you want to disrupt the narrative, if people who are invested in it will call you controversial. So why is there a problem about that? But anyway, people would rather be goody nice and privately all support me, encourage me, but in public, very little support. From all the Hindu institutions, from the government, from culture people, gurus, all these people. And gradually I started getting traction and things started turning in my favor. And then there was a snowball effect. People started saying, yeah, what he's saying, we are noticing. This is happening. Somebody is speaking, maybe we should support him. And the turning point came. This is also very interesting. The turning point of our own people supporting me rather than staying out or even fighting against me, but turning around and supporting me. Why did it happen? It happened when the opposing side started attacking me, then I became important. So it is very interesting. I became sort of the target, and all these, the American Academy of Religion, they would have me, a whole panel discussion on me. Then they would put out a whole special issue of the Journal of American Academy of Religion with articles about me. Then the University of Chicago magazine, which is very prestigious, powerful magazine, a whole discussion about how I'm criticizing their top professors. So as the person challenging the highest authorities on the opposing side, I became non-ignorable. So, when they fight you, you either run or you fight even more. And you raise the stakes because I knew the facts are on my side, the knowledge is on my side. They would keep saying, but who are you? I'm professor so-and-so in this Harvard, this guy is chairman here, this guy is head of this department. Who are you? You're a physicist, you're a scientist, but you're not the adhikari of this knowledge. I said, I'm from the tradition that you are critiquing and that you're evaluating and that you're misrepresenting. So that is my adhikar. My adhikar is that I am a practicing Hindu and I have a right to defend my tradition. It is not because the government gave me any position. So with no official capacity, which even today I have no capacity with any government, any political party, any religious organization, I'm unaffiliated and independent. With no such credentials as such, just on the merits of the argument, on the data, and being not afraid to name names, I never wrote in generalities that some people write this. I named the guy who's written it, who's a big shot in their organization, in the top university, holding all kind of prestigious positions, name them, go point by point with what they have written, books, many of their books I would read, many of their dissertations I would read. I must say I probably read over 1,000 books and PhD dissertations on India as a part of doing my work, that much. And attended maybe 100 or 200 events of the various academic conferences and so on as part of my work, recording them and being able to quote them. So that kind of research they can't refute. The more they refute, the worse it gets from them because for the book is 500 pages or so, but I have 10, 20,000 pages of other research which I did not publish. So they realize that every time they attack me on merit, I have many more things I bring out. It makes it even worse for them. So they started attacking me personally, that this bad guy and so on, which of course is irrelevant. So I just wanted to let you know that this is not an easy thing for those of you who feel it's a very glamorous thing, you become very important and famous. There's no glamour, you are fighting on your own. And the joy is the joy that you're doing your sadharma. That is the joy. There's no other joy. But you're doing it because this is what you want to do and it fulfills you. So now, I've written many more Breaking India books. This one has a title, but there are many more books which taking this theme deeper into many categories, and I have now about 20 books out on various themes, and this was one of the important ones. Now, today's Breaking India, there is a Breaking India 2.0, there's a Breaking India 3.0, and I would consider that artificial intelligence is going to become a Breaking India force 4.0. The reason it's going to become an important force is not only the narrative is controlled by these generative AI systems, and these generative AI systems are trained on Western literature, Western, New York Times, Washington Post, Wikipedia, and all the Western writings about us. So the ideas it has are not our ideas necessarily, but the control of the algorithm is from somebody else. So now we are having algorithm devata is running the world. Algorithm devata are going to take over more and more of our education system, our policy making, our public opinions. And this algorithm devata, the strings are being pulled by other people. We don't have our own AI algorithm devatas. This is kind of another kind of colonization. And I've called it the digital caste system. The digital caste system is where the top caste are these Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and the handful of people who own the algorithms and own this whole AI industry. And then the next level is the caste of people who serve them, whether it is Sundar Pichai, whether it is some big shot Indian. The point is they're serving them. They're not the owners. They don't make the final call. They're just employees. And so the top tier of technocrats who are serving are kind of the next level of the caste system. And then the rank and file of techies who are going to live a good life, they will do well for themselves, but they're still less than 1% of the human population. And they are also there in maybe level 3. And then there is many more levels below, but the majority of the public are the Shudras. They have no capital. They don't own the algorithm. If you think of algorithm as a form of capital, they don't have a capital, and they're basically labor class. So this is a new kind of caste system we have to think of when we discuss. When they have a conference on caste system, a lot of our people say, I don't want, it's bad, they try to fight it. I never fight it, I try to go and expand the idea of caste system. I've written books on the American caste system, the British caste system, and now I'm writing on the AI-based digital caste system. You see, then they can't handle it because I'm taking their logic, turning it back on them. When they're talking about oppressors and oppressed, as Marxism foundational idea, I'm talking about who are the oppressors and oppressed, who has the means of production today. I'm taking Marxism and applying it right on them in ways that they don't want to admit, and they don't want to be part of that kind of an interpretation. So that's the way I'm going about doing my thing. So now I have just in a few more minutes, because we have wonderful other speakers also. I want to talk about what does it all mean for Kerala. To begin with, I will say that I'm not a Kerala expert. I didn't do my field work here. But I wanted to give you some food for thought that people who know more than I do about Kerala might take these ideas and think about them. First, I want to say that being highly dependent on selling labor to the Middle East or to export of labor as a major source of income is a major vulnerability and a breaking India force. In the sense that, let's say there's 500,000 Keralites in Qatar. Now it gives the Qatari government a lot of leverage. You cannot go and negotiate and talk to them and be hard with them because a certain part of the economy depends on them. And the Qataris play both sides. They are this way nice guys also, but they're also funding a whole lot of breaking India force. The Qatari royal family has a lot of investments of this kind. But you cannot openly take them on because there is a concern that Kerala's economy depends on, I'm just using Qatar as an example, but there's too much dependence on foreign labor. Also, it means that our labor is building others. It's making Qatar, it's making Dubai, making other countries, rather than making India. So we don't, the fact that we cannot produce enough jobs is a serious problem. That our economy, which is, the Kerala's economy was one of the greatest in the world. If you look at the history of maritime, naval power, the so-called spice trade. The spices were medicinal plants, medicinal plants. Kerala was the world center of medicinal plants. Today, plant-based medicine is coming back in the West, because rather than these pharmaceutical molecules, the idea of plant-based medicine is in. It's very hot industry, but Kerala has got no market share in that, no market share to speak of. So the whole idea that these organic medicinal plants, they are so popular. The per acre revenue, highest of all crops is for these kind of crops. Kerala is the home of many of these. I've in fact written how a lot of the medicinal plants from Kerala were taken, some of them during the British era, but more so in the American era, overseas, and this knowledge has been copied, plagiarized, if you will, of this botanical knowledge and herbal knowledge without paying any royalties. I often go and tell them that. And Kerala has lost out, and nobody here seems to be bothered with that. So, given more sunshine, better beaches than Goa, and I apologize to the governor because he's from Goa, but honestly, as a person who comes here, once in a while I've come as a tourist, I feel that this is such a beautiful state. You have so much, Bhagwan has given you natural resources. You could be one of the best tourism destinations in the world, top 10 destinations in the world. And you could learn from the mistakes that Goa made. You made so many mistakes in the wrong kind of tourism, and you could do it properly, much better than them. And you have water, fresh water resources. You have the miles of beaches and sunshine, and so much climate for the right kind of agriculture for exceedingly profitable crops. I'm just giving you a few examples of the kind of economy you could build, so your young boys and girls don't have to go and become laborers working for somebody else, but they would be proud people if you had a thriving economy. But it takes leadership. It takes leadership to do all this. And a low grade service economy where people are just doing very low grade, they're delivering boys, and they're all these kind of things. That's not the way you could build a nation or a state. You have to have a society with a much stronger economic base. Now there are also forces that counter the Breaking India forces. Breaking India forces are centrifugal forces, pulling things apart. Centripetal forces in physics are those that bring things together, like gravitational attraction brings things together. So there are some important centripetal forces we should think about. One of them is the historical unity, traditional unity. Before the current divisive forces, the traditional unity of India and of the Malayali people is very strong. But the keepers of this were two groups. One was the royalties. They kept the continuity of cultural identity, but they were dismantled. The royalties were for a long time the keepers of who you are, your identity, your heritage, patronizing the festivals and the rituals, and that was their role. And they've been sidelined. The second group who have not been sidelined are the gurus. The gurus have a responsibility in this. The gurus have to play a role in this unification of people and mobilization of people towards a higher purpose. I would say that facing the common challenge of AI and other kinds of international forces should bring people together. Rather than fighting each other, they should think about what is it that we all face bigger than any of us, and how do we counter that? That could be the kind of agenda to bring people together. Now, I know that uh, there are people here on the left, and I respect them. I debate them. I have no problem with their worldview because there are many good things also, but I have my differences. they're very much interested and very fond of China, for example. So when I meet them, I say, learn the good things about China. How much they respect their heritage, their history, their ancient wisdom. They're not destroying that. They're valorizing that. Their language, rather than English and their language becoming a second language. Learn the good things from them. Learn the self-discipline. Learn the emphasis on industrialization and creating jobs domestically, rather than sending their best, brightest people overseas to work for someone else. Learn those things. If you admire them, then learn the good things from them. So this is of course all controversial, and but I'm happy to play that role. Thank you very much, and I look forward to some comments.
ഭാരതത്തിലെ അതിപ്രശസ്തമായ ക്ഷേത്രങ്ങളിലേക്ക് മലയാളം ന്യൂസ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ആധ്യാത്മിക യാത്രകൾ. പ്രമുഖ ട്രാവൽ ഏജൻസിയായ യാത്രാനന്ദയുമായി ചേർന്ന് മലയാളം ന്യൂസ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഒരുക്കുന്ന യാത്രയിൽ ചുരുങ്ങിയ നിരക്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്കും പങ്കാളികളാകാം. ഭാരതത്തിലെ പ്രമുഖ ശക്തിപീഠമായ അസമിലെ കാമാഖ്യ ക്ഷേത്രത്തിലേക്കാണ് ആദ്യ യാത്ര. കാമരൂപമെന്ന് കാളിദാസനും പ്രാഗ്ജ്യോതിഷപുരമെന്ന് വ്യാസനും വിളിച്ച അതിമനോഹരമായ സംസ്ഥാനമാണ് അസം. സമമായി മറ്റൊന്നില്ല എന്നാണ് അസമിന്റെ അർത്ഥം. ബ്രഹ്മപുത്ര നദിയും ഹിമാലയവും ദൃശ്യചാരുത കൊണ്ട് അനുഗ്രഹിച്ച അസമിലെ കാമാഖ്യ ഇന്ത്യയിലെ തന്നെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാളി ക്ഷേത്രങ്ങളിലൊന്നാണ്. കാമാഖ്യ ക്ഷേത്ര സന്ദർശനത്തിന് ശേഷം കിഴക്കിന്റെ സ്വിറ്റ്സർലാൻഡ് എന്നറിയപ്പെടുന്ന മേഘാലയയിലെ ഷില്ലോങ് നഗരവും ചിറാപുഞ്ചിയും അതിമനോഹരമായ മഴക്കാടുകളും ഹിമാലയൻ കാറ്റ് ചൂളം വിളിക്കുന്ന താഴ്വരകളും മേഘങ്ങളെ ഉമ്മവയ്ക്കുന്ന ചെറുകുന്നുകളും കണ്ണാടി പോലെ ജലമൊഴുകുന്ന ഉമയാങ് നദിയും സന്ദർശിക്കുന്നു. ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഒരിക്കലെങ്കിലും കണ്ടിരിക്കേണ്ട ഈ അത്ഭുത ലോകത്തിലേക്ക് നിങ്ങളെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. വിമാന ടിക്കറ്റും ചിലവുകളും ഉൾപ്പെടെ 65,000 രൂപ ചിലവ് വരുന്ന ഈ പാക്കേജ് 59,000 രൂപയ്ക്ക് മലയാളം ന്യൂസ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ലഭ്യമാക്കുന്നു. ആദ്യം ബുക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന 5 പേർക്ക് 56,000 രൂപയ്ക്ക് ഏർലി ബേർഡ് ഓഫറും ലഭ്യമാണ്. കൂടുതൽ വിവരങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇനി പറയുന്ന നമ്പറിൽ ബന്ധപ്പെടുക. 8089001200 അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 7736549234.